Remember that time that I said I wouldn't do another story time? Today I am sharing with you probably the only story time I will do on this channel. What I have to share today I think is super interesting, and I had this idea. It was actually supposed to be a bonus video last week, but then the buckets of kindness thing kind of like took precedent because it was just so exciting, and I'm so thankful for all the people that asked for cards and are willing to be part of this movement. I still have some. I need to order more, so if you want any, please let me know. But to jump right into it, we have something a little different today, and I say that every time, but this one's extra special, little different. And it's not exactly one whole story time, but a plethora of story times. And I mean, I won't be offended if you don't believe in this kind of thing. Like, a lot of these experiences, when they happened, I didn't even think that I would have a YouTube channel, so I didn't save any proof of anything, or even thought to take proof, like videos or whatever, record things better, I guess. Just, I experienced those things and I moved on. But today I'm sharing with you some stories of how Ryan has contacted me and others from the other side. And again, I won't be offended if you don't believe in this kind of thing. I literally always have. Like, back when I was a small youngin', I remember stories of my mom telling me, before I even understood what life and death was, like I was just being a human on the planet, not understanding the cycle of life. I remember going to cemeteries and telling her that I felt like I was being stared at from every direction, not knowing where I was. And like what the symbolism of like all the graves, and having like a bunch of people stare at me from each section, you know what I mean? Like, I've always been a little bit more hyper aware of like spiritual things, but my mom actually thinks that I am the reincarnation of a warlock, but that's a different story for a different day. I've had a few interesting experiences, so I thought that I would share because it's interesting to me. Maybe some other people will find it interesting. There's a couple that I literally am like, how did this happen? But so it's going to be different sections, and I'm going to start out with the interaction that I had with a medium. I was lucky enough to have a very personalized experience with this medium because it is one of my best friend's mothers. So she was just kind of collecting messages for me over time until she thought that I was ready to hear them. So I'm going to run through a few of them. Like, I have a text of like all the notes that she saved in my phone, and I just want to share a couple of them because it's like crazy. Like, there's absolutely no way that she would have known these things. Like, it's not even things that my friend knew, because there's some things I didn't even know. Let me get into it. She did mention that Ryan's soul left his body quickly, so he didn't feel any pain, which was really reassuring for me because that was the main concern. Like, I can't, even just seeing Ryan sick with like a stomach flu like hurt my heart. So thinking of him being in actual like excruciating pain like tore me apart for weeks. I mean, even months. Like, I didn't get this phone call and then this text with all of the bullet points for months later. But she also mentioned him being with specific spirit. I'm not going to mention the way that they passed away because it's super personal. We figured out that that spirit was my sister's best friend, and when the medium called me, it was her birthday. Like, my sister's best friend that passed away, it was her birthday. And my sister made a post being like, I hope you met Ryan up there. If you haven't, he's the one with the dreads and the big smile. I know you'll love him. And like, maybe a few hours later is when this conversation happened, and she just like reassured that like they're with each other up there. And that's just so, my heart, I'll start crying. All right, relax. But that's one of the first things that she mentioned. And so it was just automatically just like, okay. There's a couple things that I still don't understand on this list, and she said if I don't understand now, I'll understand eventually. Like, it's just September. She was like, it might not be this September, maybe next September, but September has some significance. So I was just like, okay. Then he wants me to remember an old song. There's this like, do you remember the old song? And there's so many songs that we would consider our songs. So like, none of them are particularly very old. I still don't understand that one. And she said, there was a bunch of serious ones, but I don't want to get into them because, again, a lot of it's very personal. But she gets to the goofy ones where Like, we were talking about all these heavy topics, and she was like, ready for the comic relief? And I was just like, you betcha. She was just like, mac and cheese. That's all he says, mac and cheese. Which is interesting because one of the last times that we went grocery shopping together, he got literally every single shaped mac and cheese. Like, he just went down the line and was like, ding, 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 like every mac and cheese that was shaped. So we had Minions, we had fucking Trolls, and Scooby-Doo, SpongeBob, like just everything that was like being marketed in shapes of mac and cheese. I had all of them at one point. And I still had 2 boxes. I have one, it's probably expired by now, but he loved his mac and cheese. I like don't doubt that at all that he mentioned that. Another thing that he mentioned was Suave, or the smell of Suave, which is interesting because I literally use Suave, like the Moroccan oil Suave shampoo, and he did really love the scent of that, and I mean I do too, so that's not even like the most crazy like, oh my god, she uses Suave, but it's still just like, how would she know that she didn't see my shower? And she mentioned like my bathroom a lot, which will come up again, specifically bubble baths, which like were a huge thing for us, and I mean it's a huge thing for me, and I make that pretty known, but I just think it's cute that he mentioned it. Oh yeah, and then there was she was telling me that he said to eat the cookies, and I guess there was a couple other things along the lines of that, and she was just like, it sounds like he thinks you were on a diet and he doesn't like that, which like I don't want to get too TMI, but he would always be like, you're the perfect thickness, don't lose weight, whenever I talked about going on a diet. So that would make a lot of sense if he was bitching about me being on a diet, which I was over the summer, to fit into a dress that I got for a wedding that he even like helps me try on the first time when I got it, and it was too small. And then that's when I was just like, shit, I need to get my shit together, I need to lose weight. And then that's when he was like, you're the perfect thickness. And the last one I want to mention is, she says, don't forget, breathe, aim high. It's okay to not be perfect. And that's some fucked up shit, because the last song that Ryan ever recorded was the night before he passed away. He even like FaceTimed me from the booth to tell me that he loves me, and like it just, okay, I can't do it any justice.
I'm sorry that I left. I'm sorry I ain't perfect.
What? Like, just the fact that she mentioned that, and like the song wasn't out yet, because this was back in, I want to say like September, and we didn't release that song. I'm talking as it. It's like like I'm the princess of tribe or some shit, but it wasn't released until November on his birthday, so she would have no idea about that. We were like, sorry, I'm not perfect. Another thing that she mentioned, which like I didn't have in the notes on my phone, was the fact that he hasn't come to my dreams yet, because he knew that I was too stubborn and I would think that it was my imagination making it up, not him actually visiting. He ain't wrong, like I was she told me that and I just like cackled, and I was just like, he knows me too well. Because it's true, like if I woke up from a dream that Ryan was in, I would 100% think it was my subconscious. I wouldn't think it was him actually visiting. But I get visits in other ways, so that's okay. But I do want to talk about dreams that people in my life have had, and the first one actually was my dad. And this was like very soon after, like I want to say like 2 weeks after he passed away, that he came to my dad's dream. And I don't have the original text that he told me about it, but like I have him retell me about it last week. It was more like a vision. He appeared and wearing the bucket hat, of course. He just said, don't worry about your baby girl, she's going to be okay. I'll look after her. And then it faded out. Which is really cool because we spent so much time at my dad's house. Like, we spent a lot of time here, obviously, because we lived here, but like at least once or twice a week we would go to dinner at my dad's house. Like, he would help me do laundry at my dad's house. So it was just really cute that like the first person in my life anyway, because I know he's come to other people's dreams, but the first one he went to was my dad, and that was really cool. And then he came to Crystal's dream, which you all know her. She was just on an episode of Coffee Talks a couple weeks ago, but this one is like a lot more in depth. Little aspects of this will come into play again later. To give a little bit of backstory to this one, one of the times that I went up to visit Ryan's family, his brother Ron was telling me about how he feels like Ryan lives in the electricity now. He is the energy, which is why I wrote that for the release of Sorry, but like, it's so true. Like, ever since he said that, that's all I can think about, because I have had, my stories are coming up about this, but I have had a lot of visits and interactions that have to do with electricity or energy in general. But this was maybe a couple weeks after I told Crystal this, and she was like, I had a dream about Ryan and I wanted to tell you. You know how you said he's in the electricity, or you said one of his friends said he is. It was Ron, his brother. I had a dream the electricity in your apartment wasn't working and you were really stressed out about it because you were in the middle of doing something important. And when you went outside or out to the hall to call the electric company, he showed up as a ghost and said to me not to worry about it, and he just reached over and touched one of the outlets, and all of a sudden all of the electricity went back on, and he told me to look out for you for him and to tell you that he loves you, and disappeared. It was really random, and I'm sure if/when he does ever visit, he'll probably go to you directly and not one of your friends. Still thought it was an interesting dream and wanted to share with you. And like I said, I truly believe he is in the energy of all things, and I'll get to that, but it was just so bizarre and very much something he would do, because like, he was such an advocate for not being stressed out, and I was pretty consistently stressed out. So, and the last one I want to mention is my brother's, which was the more recent one. Like, I kind of did them in chronological order, but he texted me saying he existed between me, you, and Shannon, my sister. He told me he was a ghost, and he said, I'm behind you too. I said, I already know. And he goes, nah, look. And I said, I'm okay with it. And he said, all right. And we walked out of the room joking around like we were brothers. And we couldn't talk around anyone else because no one knew he was there except for the three of us and him. Then I went to my room to grab something or whatever, and I came back and he was gone. I looked out the window next to me and he was walking down the street away from the house. And then I yelled out the window, why is he leaving? Then I said his name and he stopped and looked up for a second and then turned around and was saying to himself he can't do this, like he could not leave. And when he was walking back to the house and was out of sight is when I woke up. So it's just interesting that he keeps like coming back as like a support system, like telling everyone to like either look out for me or that he's like there for them, like he's always around, which makes a lot of sense. He is the energy. So now on to my experiences, and yes, I'm wearing sweatpants. Like, I got all dolled up. I have this nice shirt on and I'm wearing his sweatpants. Yep. One of the biggest things that kind of happens on the daily is something we established pretty early on in our relationship. My favorite time has always been 12:34, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I love aesthetically pleasing numbers like that. It literally has been my favorite time since as long as I can remember. That and Bob o'clock, like 8:08, Bob o'clock. But it's always been 1, 2, 3, 4. There was just one day that I brought it up to Ryan and he was like shocked, like absolutely like taken aback, like he did not fucking believe me for a second. And he was just like, that's been my favorite time my entire life. Obviously besides 420. He was telling me how he read somewhere that it was like an angel number, and whenever he saw it was 12:34, he thought it was a message from his grandfather that passed away. Like, he had the tattoo for him on his arm, so he always thought it was just really comforting. Wee woo. He just always thought it was so comforting to see that time because he strongly believed that it was just a little hello from his grandfather. So once he passed away, once he passed away, I saw 12:34 a.m. and p.m. every single time that I was awake for it. Like, I wouldn't even like seek it out. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's almost 12:34, like gotta stare at the clock. Like, I'd just be like doing my thing and then just like casually glance and then be like, oh shit, like it's 12:34. So I think that's definitely him saying hello whenever he can. Another thing is, I mean, I've already made it known on my channel with the sunrise sunset challenge, but I fucking love skies. I love clouds. I just aesthetically, like, what the sky is capable of is incredible to me. But my favorite has always been pink skies. Like, pink is my favorite color. Like, I don't know if you can tell by my face today. Pink skies have always been my favorite. He obviously knew that. And whenever I'm going through a harder time, like if I'm struggling mentally and I just need the comfort in the message from him, because he was always the one to talk me down from like panicking and worrying and stressing, and whenever I needed someone to rely on, it was him. So now whenever I talk to him and I'm just like, I just need a sign that everything's gonna be okay, I always get pink skies. Whether that's a sunrise or the sunset, like the next time whenever the opportunity strikes, I always get it. Literally always. And I don't abuse that power. I only save it for when I need it. So it's not like it's a coincidence, just like, oh, another pink sky, yesterday sucked, great, like, thanks, Ryan. Like, I only ask when I need it. Can you hear my cat? Mila! That's a dick move, because the door's closed, sorry. And my favorite thing is a lot of people send me snaps of pink skies specifically because of that. What? I also hear the song Love by Kendrick Lamar a lot, like in situations where like it typically wouldn't be happening, sort of thing, but it always arises when I need it. Say if I'm like talking to him while I'm driving, and then sometimes my CDs skip really bad, like even if the CD itself, it's just like the reader skips, so I'll have to switch to the radio, and every single time that I switch to the radio, which I don't use the actual literal like radio stations on my car, well, in my car, is because the radio almost never comes in clear, like it just sucks. So I always use CDs because those always come in clear, except for when I'm driving on the highway, because then it starts to skip the reader. But almost always it's Love by Kendrick Lamar. And like that was just one of our songs. Like if you knew Ryan, you can totally picture him just like screaming that around my house. It's like, just baby, I wanna be with you, I wanna be with you. Like that's what he would do, like the little like There was like another time at work that I went to go to the bathroom because I just need to breathe for a second, and the radio was on for the first time of the season, like out in the barn. I walk out and it's Love by Kendrick Lamar. And I was just like, hello, thank you. He even used the lyrics from that song as a caption to the picture that everyone uses of him now. Like, I'm not salty that I got cropped out, like I understand, but it's the one where he's like, and he's like, because we were laughing, and I'll insert it now. It's just interesting that it like pops up at the most convenient of times. And now to get into more specific stories themselves. I didn't really stay home a lot. I only stopped by to feed my cats once Ryan passed. Like, I swear I was either at my dad's or at Rocky's house, like, and for like a week straight I was just sleeping on different couches in Rocky's house. Mary Jane, if you're watching, I love you so much. Thank you for feeding me, and Brian, thank you for making me coffee every morning. Like, so when I ended up feeling comfortable enough to come back here, like I just couldn't stand all the memories so quickly, you know what I mean? I went to go clean out my fridge because obviously there was a lot of shit that had gone bad because I wasn't here for 2 weeks. And I mean, there were still leftovers in the fridge from when we ordered Domino's, which is so strange because I remember there was this job that I ended up hating, but I loved one of my bosses. She was telling me about how death is just so strange because it's so unpredictable. Like, we were talking about how Carrie Fisher passed away, and that was her idol all throughout growing up, and that's how we got into talking about death. And she was just like, you just never know, like that person could have coffee plans the next morning, or they could have leftovers in the fridge. So like, that's immediately what I thought of when I opened my fridge and we still had leftovers from Domino's. I didn't really have too much in the fridge otherwise, but I would have seen this, is what I'm trying to get at, is that it wasn't fully stocked up in the first place, but I was cleaning it out, and this is so goofy. I feel so, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it might not seem like a lot to anyone else, but to me, I was like bewildered. Me and Ryan, whenever we went grocery shopping, because I only ever drink like coffee, tea, water, and beer. I never really keep other beverages in stock at my house. I don't consume enough liquids. I probably should drink a lot more water and whatnot. We would get 3 for $10 cases of Arizona iced tea, like the packs of 12 cans. So we'd get 3 of those for $10. And he would always get 2 of the original, so like the lemon flavor. And then we would always get 1 case of peach because it's my favorite. Like peach iced tea in the summertime is just like the most refreshing thing of all time. Tell me I'm wrong and I'll call you a liar. He obviously would drink those as well, but he would save some for me. He would always leave the last one for me. Literally always. Even if we had nothing else in the fridge to drink, he would leave the last one for me. So cleaning out my fridge, again, I would have seen this, but I cleaned everything out, all of the junk, all of the expired shit, to just be face to face with a can of peach iced tea. It was straight middle in the back. There's no way I wouldn't have seen it. Like the other times I was at my house, because like I'm bougie and I only give my cats filtered water because I don't trust the tap water in this town. Like it's disgusting. Like I'm usually not one to be a bougie bitch about tap water. Like I don't give a fuck. But when it tastes off and wrong and I wouldn't drink it, I'm not gonna give that to my cats. I give them filtered water from a Brita. So like I'd opened my fridge enough times that I would have seen it, I would have noticed, but it just, I don't know. He left me the last peach iced tea and I still haven't drank it. It's still on my Helgabtaki shrine, as I call it. It was always such a kind gesture in the first place that I can't do it. I can't do it. So that was weird. I don't know if spirits can literally like manifest a can of iced tea, but there was no fucking way it was there, is what I'm saying. Excuse my language, but this shit gets weird, alright? Now back to the bathroom. The medium brought up the bathroom not only to me, but my friend, that her mom asked her to ask me about my bathroom before she talked to me about everything else. And there was one day where, like, I've lived here for almost 2 years now. I know the ins and outs of this place, and my lights have never flickered in my bathroom, literally ever. Like even the one time that the light bulb just went out, like it didn't flicker to like be losing power or anything. And like I've been here through like thunderstorms and whatnot, like other opportunities that the electricity would be wonky. Do you know what I mean? And there was just one day that I was talking to him, and as I was getting ready for the day and I went into the bathroom to do my hair, I was looking in the mirror. I like noticed that the light was flickering, so I looked up and I was just like, that's some weird shit. And then I looked back down in the mirror, and then as soon as I like looked at myself in the mirror again, a dark shadow, like diagonally, just swiped behind me. And again, I know some people might not believe me, but I wasn't even freaked out in that very first moment. I was just like, what's up, Ryan? Like, that's where my head went. I was just like, oh, hi. Like, and then right after I was just like, oh my god. And it was just so strange that it all happened just so quickly. Like I literally was just like, oh, that's weird. And then I looked back down and just whoop, like, hello. Another little one that happened at work, actually. I was covering up at a different department and I was really stressed out about it because it was super busy. There were so many questions that I didn't have the answers to because it wasn't my typical department. And since it was so busy, a lot of the salespeople up in that department would be busy as well with customers already. So I couldn't be like, hey, stop what you're doing and help me instead. So it was just kind of like I constantly felt like I was drowning when I was working up in that department because I didn't know anything. And it was so fast paced that it was hard to learn anything, to have the answers for the like next person. So I was just like freaking out. And like I, on the verge of tears, had to storm out and go to the bathroom and like take a walk. And I had the same conversation I always do with Ryan, being like, I'm losing my shit, I need you here, like you're always the one to calm me down and you're the one that's gone. Please help me, like give me some sign that something will help me push through this day. So once I get my shit back together and like I'm breathing again and I got the tears to go away, I sit back down at the counter and my first customer after I sit down was a woman who was from a company that requires a PO number for their jobs. Which, like, to explain real quick, when we cash people out at the counters, some people require a PO to track down the different jobs that they're at. Like, if they're a big company and they're doing, like, 20 jobs at once, you need a PO number or job name to be able to be like, okay, this receipt goes with this job, like this, so they can bill their customers accordingly. Now, to back up a bit, whenever I went to work in New Hampshire, I would pass this building called The Point. And I have no idea what it is. I just know it's a circular red sign and it says The Point. Like, point is in the red circle is what I'm trying to get at. So I knew when I passed that I was either 20 minutes out, like away from my house, or I was 20 minutes from my house when I was going home. I like shared that bit of information with Ryan one day when we were going up to go to his street hockey game, and ever since then, like after that, he would always call me when he was like coming down from New Hampshire to our house to be like, it was just such like a quick thing. Like I would see that he was calling, I would answer, be like, hello, and then he'd be like, The Point. Like, I don't want to yell it as loud as he does because like I have neighbors. I have a downstairs neighbor, but he'd be like, The Point. That's it, just The Point. And that was my way of knowing that he was 20 minutes away. Like, he would be home in 20 minutes. So it just became like a thing. Even if we were driving together, we'd both be like, The Point, every time we passed it. So after I have this like mini meltdown and I come back and I'm ready to cash someone out, this person needs a job name and she says, The Point. And I immediately was just like, what? Like, usually I'm like, okay, and I start typing, but I literally was like, what? And she was just like, The Point? And I was just like, right, yep, okay, and just started like typing it, and I like asked about the location. I was just like, is that this place? Like, I'm just curious because I drive by it, like, all the time, like, just trying to be like subtle and not freaking out. And she was like, oh yeah, it's right by this and blah blah and this plaza, and like it was exactly the place that we were talking about, like me and Ryan. So I was just like, okay, wow, cool, great. Internally freaking out because like I didn't expect a sign so immediately, and just like I was shaking and like trying to explain that to anyone at work, like especially in that department because I didn't really know anyone. I was just having a heart attack. And I saved the best one for last because it's so specific and it goes back to a lot of the other things that were mentioned with like electricity and crystal and this, that, the other thing, whatever. So this was a bright and shiny day in July. And me and Crystal went to a fair for her birthday, because who doesn't like overpriced lemonade and hecklers peer pressuring you into playing games? We decide to get real food instead of paying $15 for 3 fake ass chicken strips at this fair. And we picked Panera Bread, which was like 10 minutes away. And as we were driving, I was telling Crystal, because at this point I did a lot of like word vomiting, like venting about how I was feeling, even though we were just celebrating her birthday, like it came up again. But I was talking about how Ryan felt like home, and I'd never experienced that feeling with anyone else. It was just like wherever we were, it didn't matter, like if we were in Boston or up at his house in Derry, if we were just driving around, if we were here at this house, he felt like home. And I even referenced the song Home, like, you know the one. That one. And I went on this tangent about how, even though I've never felt that way before, Tribe started to feel like home. Like, whenever I was up at Rockies with everyone, like all of Tribe and the girls and just like all the mutual friends, like with everyone together, and like even if it was just tribe, like I will admit to this day I'm still very shy around all of them because I'm not good in big scenarios. Like if you put me in a group of people, 3+, like 3 people or more, I just go into shutdown mode and I'm just an observer. So even if I was observing, which was more often than not and is still pretty much the case, but I still love everyone. Like if it was in smaller groups, I'm a lot better at being social. But it just felt like home, like where I was supposed to be. And I was just ranting and raving about my love for them. And so we pull up to Panera. We're still talking about it, and keep in mind that home song I hadn't heard in literal months because I don't listen to the radio. I only ever listen to like my Tribe CDs in my car, and when I'm home it's usually like Dave Matthews or like more Tribe. I was just still talking about it, whatever, and then we get a little bit sidetracked because we're ordering food and shit, and we are waiting for our food. We finally get our names called, we grab our trays, and we find a table and sit down, and I shit you not, the second we sit down, what do we hear? Like, I shit you not. Like, we sit our asses down in that booth, place our trays down, and it was just like, da 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 da. I literally had to stop Crystal in the middle of her sentence, like, whoops, sorry for being rude, but shut the fuck up. Do you hear what is happening right now? Because I even said to her, like, I was like, I haven't heard that song forever, but like, that is exactly how I feel. And I literally just immediately started shaking and crying, and so did Crystal. Like, we were just like, we probably looked so stupid to anyone else there, but we both were just like shaking and crying into our mac and cheese at Panera. Because it was just so, like, we were talking about it in such depth, and I mentioned I hadn't heard that song in so long, but like, how much like Tribe means to me, and how much Ryan means to me, and how he feels like home, and how Tribe feels like home, and like, it was just so wild. And so I was pointing up when I told her to listen, and when I did that and like looked up, so there was the speaker right above us, and then the light next to it started flickering. And I shit you not, like, I looked around the entire establishment, that was the only light flickering. Like, of all places, like the light right above our table next to the speaker playing the song we were just talking about Ryan. I don't know, these things happen so frequently that like sometimes it feels like it's just me making it up, but I know it's him, so that's all I need. So again, sorry if you don't believe in this, if you think it's just trash, but all these visits and little signs have helped me through all the past 10 months, so it's just really comforting to know that he's still there for me. That's all. So I hope you enjoyed this, and even though it's a tad bit spooky, probably won't actually do another story time after this, but I don't want to make myself sound like a liar, so I hope you enjoyed anyway. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're into this kind of thing, and with that, stay positive, my friends, and have a wonderful ass day.
I'm sorry that I left. I'm sorry I ain't perfect. I'm sorry I admit it, mama, but it's gonna be worth it. Yeah, I'm sorry that I left. I'm sorry I ain't perfect. I'm sorry, but I'm doing this for you. Just know I'm working. Yeah, 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 yeah.